So let's just
Yeah.
kick it off. You are a global influencer marketer and you are the
Oh,
founder of Red Media Live. So tell me a bit about that and what that involves.
so Red Media Live is a brand talent agency. So I think I found that, when I started working in influencer marketing, I think a lot of agencies were focusing on managing talent and then
Mhm.
managing the talent and then going to brands and saying, hey, we managed, a bunch of talent. Would you like to work with them? And I think that's fine, but that didn't kind of really work for me so much because I'd always worked in marketing. I had always worked with the brands.
Yeah.
So, so I know kind of like, how brands work in terms of strategy and, how I could then basically find talent that could fit in line with what their brand message would be for that year or whatever. So I work with brands and I then source talent who I think would work well with them and marry the two basically.
Nice. And that's not usually how it's done. Because it's so interesting that you explain that. It's usually you're managing the talent and you're like pitching them, but it's the other way around that you're doing it. I love that.
The other way around, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with doing it,
Yeah.
where you want to manage the talent and then pitch them out. But I just find that I prefer to work with the brands. Because like I said, historically I have always worked in marketing and I've always worked kind of, with brands.
Mm.
So I just find that it works better for me that way.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
Love that. And is that what you always did? Like, how did you even get into that?
So I have always wanted to work in marketing and but what's kind of unique about what I do is I focus on kind of like very diverse marketing or multicultural marketing, or as now it's called kind of, we're cultural advisors. So working with brands to ensure that they work with diverse talent or, if it's a brand message that they're able to reach more diverse communities across UK and Europe, etc. So I always kind of wanted to work in an environment where I could showcase my culture. With, I'm South Asian, I'm Punjabi, very proud as well. And growing up, kind of, you always have this sense of where do I belong? Do I belong in the Western culture? Do I belong, am I, I'm very much, Punjabi, but, you know, it's important for me to also showcase the Western side of my culture. So I wanted to kind of like work in an environment where I could, be brown and proud, I guess. So I started working in kind of like the ethnic media world,
Okay.
in radio, and that's where I really found like where my passion was. So I continued doing that throughout my career, until now. Now that I'm doing it for myself with my own company, and just carrying on that same message of ensuring that I'm able to showcase a very diverse talent to the brands that I work with.
Yeah. And was that easy though? Like, obviously, you said that you identified like a little mini identity crisis, which I think so many of us relate to. Even when you said that, I was like, hello, I think I'm still transitioning between that actually. Was it
Yeah.
easy for you to just try and find a place that felt comfortable and then be able to grow from there?
I think if you are trying to convince a brand to do it, you've got to embrace it yourself first. Because if you're going to a brand and saying you should be working with more diverse talent, they're going to ask why. And they're going to want to hear that passion coming from you that, hey, look, I had struggles growing up because I didn't see brown faces in magazines or I didn't see brown faces on mainstream. Like we're so lucky now. We've got so many different types of TV channels and newspapers, and we consume media in so many different ways that we are always able to find a group of talent or a group of personalities who we can relate to. But, when I was growing up, there wasn't any of that. Not to say there isn't, it's all plain sailing now. But when I was growing up, there really wasn't, that much kind of like many options. So yeah, I think that, it was a process where you have to learn to accept that, you're proud of who you are. And
Yeah.
then carrying that message through to brands is, I think that's where they would find some kind of like comfort in knowing that, okay, this person knows what they're talking about because they've lived it, they've experienced it, and
Mm.
they understand how to kind of like, maneuver in that world. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a process. And you know what, it's a daily process. It's a daily struggle, as women of color, it's,
Yeah.
we have our challenges. So that will continue throughout.
Definitely. And that's why it's so important to have people like you working with brands because it's really true. Like, when I think of adverts growing up, just little things like shampoo adverts, you know how the hair would always be so glossy and straight. And I'm like, oh my God, is that what my hair's meant to look like? That's what shampoo is for. And I didn't get it. And my mum was like, no, shampoo cleans your hair, Dean. It doesn't make your hair go straight. But I never saw a woman with curly
Yeah.
hair or even a woman with skin color up even close to mine. So it was kind of like very difficult for me to imagine myself in the world. So what you're saying, I'm honestly sitting here just trying not to fist pump, like, yes, I feel it. But it's
But
true. It's true.
it's true. And, you're absolutely right in what you're saying. And then there's another element to it. So there's not only like the physical appearance that you want to relate to, but it's the cultural, you want to relate to a person who understands your culture, how you carry yourself, how you are, amongst family members. And, we have these ways about us, in different cultures that we are kind of like mindful of what we wear, for example, in front of certain family members, etc., etc. So those things that are very important for a brand to know, like a brand might want to show, promote swimwear.
Yeah.
They go to a certain type of person and say, we should ask them to work with us. And then that's for me to say, no, I don't think that's appropriate. But how about we, change things up a little? So, I'm kind of there to kind of give them that overall kind of advice on the best way to approach certain talent as well.
That's really brilliant, actually, because I don't ever think of that. So obviously, I'm not in that world on your side of it, so I would never think of that. But you said about being a cultural advisor. That's so important because so many missed opportunities because maybe people don't approach certain influencers because they're not sure if it's something they would do. Whereas someone like you could step in and be like, well, actually, we could do it this way. So that's actually amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So that you've just kind of like summarized it quite well. That is what a cultural advisor would do. They would tell a brand exactly how they should be working with talent. So give me your product, I will then adapt it and reconstruct it without losing the core message,
Yeah.
and then make it in line with whoever I think would be the best person to promote that product. Basically,
Okay. So tell me,
just
what's the typical day like for you? Because that sounds like a long term mission. That sounds like something you're building towards. So what's the typical day like? Break it down for me.
So, I actually start my days quite early, and I go for a walk, and I try to switch off, in the mornings, just kind of like settling myself to prepare to log in, and I try to kind of stick to a 9 till 6, 9 till 7 day, and then weekends, I really do just try to switch off completely and relax, and do really kind of like relaxing things because I have quite an intense week. So generally, kind of the Monday to Friday is, catching up with all the campaigns that are running. Like last week, for example, I had about 6 campaigns that went live. When I say campaigns, it's more kind of like, brand collaborations with talent.
Mhm.
Um, so those went live last week, and, coordinating, so when you manage talent, um, managing a brand is it's not a challenge, because I've been doing it for so long now. But when you work with a brand, you always have to be mindful in the way that you interact with them. They're looking at you as an extension of their team, so they want to make sure that I'm across everything as much as they are.
Yeah.
So being on the ball in that sense, reminding them of things sometimes maybe they forget because they're obviously inundated with internal matters as well as campaigns that they're working with me on. So being an extension of your brands and your client's team is really, really important. And I take that very seriously. So to me, it's like making sure, sort of going through and ticking off things. But when you're working with talent, you're working with 5 different people with 5 different personalities, um, very different,
Schedules.
schedules. Exactly. You literally read my mind. So coordinating between either them directly or their management teams is also a challenge in the sense that there's a lot of coordinations and coordination to do, and also temperaments to manage, and to ensure that talent doesn't feel like they're being inundated with things that they have to deliver for the client. So just being, I always have like a soft spot for the talent, because I know that it is hard to balance, like, to do a creative piece for a brand and then put it live. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. But I that's what I do. That's what I'm good at. That's what I love. So, I'm always in my element in that sense. So that's basically what my day looks like.
I've seen you in action, so I know you're always in your element. And do you know what? Like, I'm not even just saying this. You literally wear 7,000 hats because I saw you on a shoot and you were doing everything from like organizing to making sure everything was running on time to actually even like helping with the vision. You were doing everything. I was just like this. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. I think that's probably because part of me can't switch off,
Yeah,
and again, it's always going back to the client. What is the client looking for? What is the outcome? And when you know in your head, you have a vision of what the end product should look like, you don't want to take a break at any point. You want to make sure every single thing is on point. And it's
yeah,
never a disrespect to anybody in the team because they're doing everything that they can. But when I guess maybe it's a personal trait of mine, I just want to make sure that you know, we don't miss a trick.
yeah.
And and Dina, you were on, you were there that day at the shoot. You can see the efforts that have gone into not just from me, but from the whole team.
Everyone.
So
Yeah.
if the end product is like not even, 100% what the client wanted, it would just be such a huge shame that everybody's gone to all this effort and then it doesn't. So yeah, it's important for me to be across everything, just to make sure everybody else is, on point. And yeah, and that's basically how you get the results out.
Yeah. And what's the hardest
Exactly.
thing then? Is it switching off? Is that the hardest thing for you?
Do you know what? It's hard, but I think that there's a lot of conversation around mental health right now, as you know, and I take that very, very seriously. And I think I may not have in the past, but I think now that people are being so unbelievably brave and talking about, very, deep issues that they've had with regards to mental health.
Yeah.
From that, obviously you feel empathy towards them and you feel, wow, like I can't believe you went through that. But I think all of us, I think humans generally have probably experienced an element of that at some point in their life. And I think I don't want to be that person that ignores that. So my point to your question is that, do I switch off? I do switch off now because I understand that mental health is really important. So Fridays, I really do try to switch off. Like I will, because normally, when you switch your laptop off, you just put it down
It's on,
and you
but it's
switch off.
sleeping.
It's sleeping, right? So what I do is I actually turn it off, right? Because it's a process for me. Okay, I'm turning my laptop off. Yes, I have, access on my phone, but obviously when you're on your laptop and you're sitting down, it's different. But I do generally try now to just have my weekends to myself and not having any guilt. I recently started watching Ugly Betty on Amazon Prime. And I used to watch Ugly Betty when it first came out. You're probably too young then, but you
Shit, I
were
haven't watched it. How young do you think
young, you're a baby.
I
So I
am?
used to love watching that when I was younger. And so now I've just made a point of just, you know, sitting on my sofa, putting on the TV and just relaxing and unwinding. And I absolutely love it. And then Sunday is all about just preparing. And I now really look forward to Monday because I'm like, yeah, got a lot to do. I'm going to organize myself. And yeah, so yeah, switching off is very important. I know it's hard, but if anybody else is listening to this, I would say don't have any guilt. If you know you've done everything you can in the week to, make sure your business is running successfully, and it's important that you give yourself a break and a pat on the back and say, right, gonna have a couple of days off, and then I get back on it on Monday.
Yeah. But I feel like with this industry, especially that you're working on both sides and you've constantly probably got to look for talent, as much as you're saying that, I believe that you switched off, but I can imagine it's taken a really long time for you to get there because I can't I can't even imagine how much you're scrolling through trying to find people that would suit the brands. And that must take a lot of time in itself.
Takes a lot of time, Dina. Honestly, it's because it's not just about just going on and saying, okay, somebody's got, I don't know, 50,000 followers and I think they'll be great for this brand.
Yeah.
It's about going deep into that timeline history, like going deep in, seeing, the trying to understand the characteristics of this person. What other brands have they worked with? Seeing, what language they use for their captions. This is actually really important, I think, for talent to know that if you are interested in having a career and using your social platforms to have a career with, I'm not to say that you should create a false perception, but if you see it as your career and your business, every single word that you put out there, every single image, every single content creator, whatever you do is very, very important. And you've got people like me who are going through and, organically, let's be honest here, there's a lot of, sort of organic research going on, like you say, when you're on your phone, you're kind of scrolling through, but it goes deeper than that. Let me try and figure out who this person is. Well, who do they represent? What do they stand for? All of these things are really important. So yeah, going back to your point, do I switch off? It's hard. It's hard because you've got to really do a lot of research and go in depth when you're looking for talent. Because
Exactly.
essentially, the brand is taking your word for it. Okay, you think I should work with this person? Yes. You think they're great? Yes. And then all of a sudden, something comes up or something happens, and you're like, brands like they don't align with our values, and then you know
And that's
it
your
comes back.
reputation because they trust you. Because it's true. Like I can imagine with the relationships you've built, it's more a case of Mandeep, can you find us the perfect person for this? They're not going to question you. So you're doing all the
Absolutely,
legwork, and it is literally your
yeah,
name on it.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, spot on.
Awesome. I want to ask a question because you mentioned something then. We were talking about people that, for talent, that are looking to build a career online. What makes
Yes,
good content then? So, what for you when you're scrolling through, if you can even generalize it, what makes you think, I want to work with this person?
I think the first thing is consistency.
Okay.
So being consistent. If I go on to 'cause when a brand comes to you, they want a certain uh, level of influencer. So it's a micro or a macro or a mega. All of those fall into certain brackets of how many followers they have, right?
Okay.
So if they have, they could have, let's say, 30,000 followers, right? Which is great. It's a good number. But then they haven't posted since 6 months ago, or they
Yeah.
haven't posted for 5 months, or they haven't posted for a month. That to me shows that, and look, people have personal issues. Don't get me wrong. Like personal issues will stop you from doing those things. I get that. But some people just won't post because, they're busy maybe with their main job.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talent. This is what I love about talent. They are multitasking. They're doing, their 9 to 5, and then they're doing this on the side. But if they want to then transition and make, being an influencer their full-time job, they've got to have consistency on that. Consistency, good quality content. You don't need a crazy camera. I mean, you can have an iPhone. There's so many good phones out there. Recently I've seen, an ad for a Google camera, and I'm like thinking that's actually quite a good camera. I might have to get that. So you don't need a fancy camera, but just consistency, good creatives, tell a story with your posts as well, so people and the brands can start to understand a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I was to sum it up in one word, I would say consistency.
I love that. And do you know what? It's so interesting hearing it from you because when you're outside of this world, like I'm not an influencer, I'm not doing what you're doing. But when you look outside, I hear a lot of conversations where, like, oh, she's just got followers because she's rich, or he's just got followers because he's good looking. And it's actually like, well, anyone can be rich or good looking or whatever. But you're so right about consistency because I've started to notice the difference between people that are actually building a career through the content they're making and people that maybe are just doing this for like fun. And it's so interesting because you just pointed that out and I've started noticing that I never used to even consider that before.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think influencers get a really hard time.
Yeah.
And, I think that, like you say, people have all these, you know, misconceptions. Some of them can't be, some of them are not misconceptions, but people have this perception that influencers are just taking, you know, airbrush pictures and putting them on and just kind of building a platform. But I think that what people forget is that even that in itself is a process. People have to take time out, take pictures, um, you know, schedule pictures, to that's the process of content creation. So yeah, I respect everybody online, who keeps it consistent and tries to kind of, be up to date. So yeah, I try not to give influencers too much of a hard time.
Yeah, that's nice because I think they get enough of that time. Even I think back in the day when I was first new to this whole world, I was like, oh my God, why are they famous? And now I get it. I'm like, she makes like 7 videos a day, edits them. And it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. 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 So
Marketing is changing so much, Mandeep. Like, I'm just thinking about how many platforms I log on to and have adverts in my face, and I'm seeing different faces, content creators that I actually follow as well. Do you feel like you're heading towards a big change, or what do you think the industry is going to look like in about the next 5, 10 years?
I think that it's changing all the time. You
Mm,
know, it's to say if there's going to be a big change. I think that the big changes have already happened.
okay.
I feel like it's changing all the time. I need to be on my feet constantly because, TikTok has become huge. TikTok will just continue developing. Instagram is obviously great. I use Instagram a lot with the brands that I work with. Um, the audience and the content is very different across both platforms. So just to give you an example, I was working with a very well known food brand, and we worked with an Instagram influencer
Mm.
who's got a very, very big platform and creates very, very beautiful content. And the brand had certain guidelines. So, obviously they had their own guidelines. So the influencer had to adhere to those guidelines, where they wanted their brand positioning, et cetera, et cetera. And she was fine with that. And it was great. And it went live. And then we talked about how we could then use that same content on her TikTok page. Would you mind putting it onto your TikTok as well? It's done now. It's a lovely, beautiful bit of video. And she said, no,
Oh,
how the content that I create for my TikTok page is very different to what I do for my Instagram page. And I would have to reshoot that. So the conversations that I'm having with brands now is let's have a separate strategy for TikTok.
mm,
Keep it separate for Instagram and separate for TikTok. So, so I think going forward, where you say, are there going to be any changes? I think that the way people consume content is going to be different across all of the platforms, and that's what I want to be aware of and make sure that my clients are aware of too.
do you know, I read something, don't quote me because I could be wrong and it could be outdated now. But I read something like a month ago and it said that TikTok is one of the biggest platforms for users, more so than content creators. Like there's way more people absorbing the content than there is making the content. Like the percentage was crazy. Man. I think it was like a really high in the 90s of people actually just consuming it. And I just thought, I'm definitely one of them because I can sit on TikTok for hours. It's so bad. I had to delete it off my phone because I'd literally just be sitting there. It's
Yeah.
so addictive.
Do you know what I find about TikTok? What I find so amazing about TikTok is that I will get people forwarding me TikTok videos from my 13-year-old nieces to my almost 65-year-old mother and
Oh,
everybody in between. So TikTok is really one of those platforms. Like you say, it's definitely consumed, probably more. I can understand that. Um, but it's consumed by people from such a big kind of wide age group.
yeah.
It's unbelievable. So it's a very interesting platform. But I think that if brands want to work, and I remember I wrote something about this on my LinkedIn. I did a post about it,
Yeah.
that if brands want to work with TikTokers and create, content with TikTokers,
Yeah.
um, they should allow that creative freedom, because there is a lot of creative freedom on TikTok as opposed to Instagram, which is a little bit more kind of like, pristine, a bit more, the content is a little bit more high quality.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with either. They're both
Yeah.
great, but it's just a different way that, content is consumed.
It's
So, yeah,
viral videos on TikTok that I see can literally be like someone like doing like a 3 second thing and it will get like 10 million likes. And it's literally the lowest
yeah,
quality. But it's true, you see a difference, but somehow, I don't know how, TikTok, it's crazy. It's got its own little rules, isn't it?
it has indeed. Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, and it's actually something we ask all the creatives and the entrepreneurs that we invite on this. What does authenticity mean to you, and how do you feel that you remain authentic in this industry?
It is, well, I think for me, it's understanding yourself and knowing who you are and knowing what you want, um, helps you to remain authentic, because you can feel like you're the most authentic person in the world. But if you don't know what you want, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a goal, then it's very difficult to remain authentic, because then you're kind of just riding the wave of life, and you don't have a purpose and you don't have direction. So if you know that, okay, in 5 years or in 4 years or in 2 years or even in 1 year, this is what I want to achieve, that will help you to stay authentic. And that's what I try to do. I say this quite a lot, and people who know me, you will hear this, they'll probably be like, here she goes again. But I do stay in my own lane. I don't think about what other people are doing. I wish everybody well, and wish everybody positivity in in what they're achieving and doing. But I'm happy kind of being in my own lane, having my own goals, and trying to achieve what it is that I want to achieve. And I have my own goals and my own aspirations, and I just stick to that. And if I stick to that, then I feel like I'm being authentic to myself. And I think that then reflects on, the people that I work with, and, hoping that they would then believe in me because they know that, okay, Mandeep's in her own lane, she's doing her own thing. And again, that going back to clients, that's where the trust comes from as well, that, I'm not trying to be something that I'm not, I'm happy just kind of being where I am. So I hope that's answered the question.
It went so deep. I thought I was in a TED talk then. Loved it. I was literally like, drop your mic now. I'll wait for you to do this. Honestly, it's so true though, because I don't want to get cheesy, but like this world is crazy because you see what everyone's doing. So even if I do something amazing, I'll quickly scroll on Insta or something. I'll be like, oh, well, they've just done this. And you shouldn't think like that. And you have to like
Yeah.
concentrate yourself. So I think it's amazing that you're like literally just focused on your goal and being you and doing it the way you want to do it, rather than it worked for someone else. So let me see what they're doing. And I love that because it's hard to do that nowadays.
And it's important for people who are very much engrossed in the social media world like me, because I'm human. I'm going to go and see what other people are doing, and you think, oh, I could, maybe that could be me. But you are you. you know you are not them. So focus on you and work on you, and you're unique, you're special, because there's nobody else like you. And it's not cliche, you may see memes about this, but it's very true. You are who you are, and be proud of that. Set your goals, because those people are there. They've achieved those things because they've set goals and they take their careers very seriously. Sometimes you get jammy, you get lucky. I get all of that, but those people still have goals. So apply that to your life, and you'll be, on your way there too.
Mandeep, you've started my Monday in the best way. You've honestly made my morning already.
Oh, bless you. That makes me happy.
No, honestly, I really mean it. Like you just burst so much. I mean, you were enthusiastic when I met you. You're enthusiastic here, and you're just so passionate about what you do. And I think, like on a deeper level, it's so important to have people like you working with brands. Otherwise, people like us are never ever gonna get the chance, or even people aren't even gonna understand our cultures. Because even when people think they know about our cultures, they don't. It's hard to learn about it unless you're in it. So I think what you're doing is amazing. And where can people find you in case anybody wants to get in touch?
I My social media. So my personal social media, Instagram is Mandeep Nijjer, and then obviously my company is Red Media Live. On Instagram, it's Red Media Live One, at Red Media Live One. We're going through a whole rebrand, so maybe by the time this interview comes out, everybody will have seen it by now. So new website, rebranding. So yeah, hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so. So yeah,
Amazing. We'll spread it all as well so people can find you easily. Thank you
thank you.
so much.